Happy Tuesday. Happy whatever day it might be when you are watching this replay. Hello, hello. If this is your first time joining, my name is Tatiana Muse. I am a business coach and a mentor for women wanting to start their own stationery businesses. I've actually been running my own online stationery business called The Stationery Muse for the last 6 years. I just celebrated the 6-year business anniversary last week, so it's very exciting. And for the last 2 years, I've been coaching women to help them launch their own stationery businesses and really just get out of their own way when it comes to just the confusion of it all. And then I just love to share what I know. I have a ton of knowledge in my brain, and I love to share it here on my YouTube channel, here on Instagram. I'm live on both if you see me looking back and forth, and with my clients through my programs. And so I'm excited for us to be chatting today about the topic of just some of the habits that are what I feel not all of them because it would take all day, but some of the habits that I've been implementing over the last 6 years to run my business successfully, to feel more organized, and to just feel like I have some things in order. And so I wanted to share some of those with you. So if you are watching, let me know, where are you watching from? Hi, Trina. Thanks for joining today. And as people are getting on, I am going to be looking back and forth. I'm on my YouTube channel as well as on Instagram. And so I haven't really quite figured out how to make it so that they're both right next to each other. Maybe that might be something I'll be doing in the future. But I'm excited though, because I am planning on doing these lives just about every Tuesday. At least that's the plan as of now. And so I'm going to be upgrading my camera for my computer. So the YouTube live stream is about to be looking pretty good. Hopefully next Tuesday will be the first week with it, so I'm really excited. I'm waiting on all of this stuff. Hey, Kristen. Hey, crew woke up from Raleigh. We got Trina watching from New Jersey. Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a good Tuesday. I was just talking about I have a new little hookup that's coming so that I can kind of up the quality on the live video for YouTube. So I'm really excited for that. But yeah, so let's get into this topic of what are some of the habits that I have been implementing within my own business to just kind of help you get your mind working a little bit of some things that you may or may not have been thinking about. I know a lot of times, many of these things are things that we hear all the time, but we sometimes don't really implement them as much. Hey, Anita. And so the first thing I want to say, even before we get into the points, is that I have a pre-point. And the pre-point is that you need to have a why for your business. So you need to have a purpose of why you're doing anything. And I mean, this can be down to, why are you posting this on your social media platform? Why are you deciding to film this video? Why are you releasing this product? You need to have a why, because when you're making different decisions in your business, and especially when you're trying to tie it to something, it's just important to know that. So I just wanted to point that out. Really just having a business foundation in general is going to be helpful. Foundation just meaning, okay, what are you doing? Who are you doing it for? Where are you going? All of those things are important to know really in the beginning of starting a business. This should kind of be something you have in place. And then from there, you'll be able to be like, okay, now let me get into these habits. But I just want to address the importance of having a why, because it's extremely important. So, and then what's nice about it as well is that you can revisit that why. So once you have it, let's say it's been a year, you look back and you're like, okay, I thought this was my target audience, but I'm kind of shifting a little bit and I'm learning that this is actually who I'm targeting. There won't be so much confusion in everything else you do, because you'll be clear on who you're serving. You'll be clear on where your business is going, and most importantly, why you're doing it. So that's something that we break down really in depth within my program, the Inspire Blueprint. But the biggest thing I would just say for you is to just think about those 3 things to get started, and just kind of get your mind working on where you can kind of see that going. And then this will help you get into the habits. So let's see, we got Shrina watching from Mississippi. Hello. Budget with Emmy from South Florida. And then hey, Takia. Thanks everybody for joining. Hey, Ashley for Strokes of Freedom. Okay, so the first one is to be intentional with your days. And this is something that I have really been implementing a lot, more so in this later half of my business. I think before having a child, before even being married and all of these different things, I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants, to be honest, with my business. I would just kind of be like, oh, okay, I know I'm releasing this. Oh, you know what? I'm kind of feeling impulsive. Let me post something. Oh, I'm kind of feeling like this. Ooh, let me go do this. And so I just was like doing all the things all the time. And there was never really like a purpose for anything. So being intentional with my days now as a mom, as a wife, having a household to manage, running 2 different businesses, and just trying to keep up with everything. I was talking about this over on Instagram last week about the importance of having a schedule and how I realized that I never really had a schedule for not only my business, but just like every aspect of the different roles that I'm playing in my life. Like, okay, when do I have time to clean? Like really doing that. But when it comes to your business, it's the same thing. Okay, if you know that you have to create content, you also have to design products, you have to send out emails, you have to write copy for things. You have to work on a launch strategy. You're rolling out a new product on this day, and then you know you have something coming down the pipeline. It's important to know when you're going to do those things. And so the first thing, what I would really suggest for you is to, first of all, just be realistic with where you currently are within your schedule. So look at your day, you know, any day of the week, especially if you do kind of similar things for the most part, looking at that and kind of figuring out, okay, where are my pockets of free time? Where do I find that I'm just sitting and scrolling on my phone? When am I just sitting and watching maybe way too many Netflix episodes of a show, you know, or binging on YouTube? I know YouTube is my guilty pleasure. I will be on YouTube forever. That's my thing. But whatever it is where you just feel like you are constantly doing something that's really not moving you forward in any way, but it's moving somebody else forward, whether it's giving them views, it's giving Netflix your money, whatever the case might be, to figure out what those distractions are. And then from there, you'll be able to figure out where those pockets of time are so that you can start fitting in some of the business aspects. Now, I'm not trying to say like, oh, don't ever rest, don't ever scroll, don't ever have time to do other things. But what I find, especially as you know, we grow and as we take on more roles, especially if you work full time or if you have multiple children or even just one, it's really important to be intentional with your time. And so when you can't just really wake up and just be like, okay, I know at some point today I want to write this email for my followers. It's like, no, you need to have that on your calendar so that it can actually get done. You need to have a specific spot for that to be done. So just to kind of piggyback off of that is to be intentional with your to-do list. So once you figure out, okay, what are those times that you have available? I know for me, I've shared this before, which it has been so beautiful. We finally figured out for me to have, it's like every other Saturday and every other Friday. So it always works out to where I have at least one day out of the week where I have like 4 to sometimes 5 hours of uninterrupted work time where I can really get a lot done. And then my daughter, twice a week, she actually goes to daycare now. So between those things, I've kind of found my pockets. But even more so when I found times where I'm just sitting down, like I see Anita is saying, the YouTube rabbit hole. Yes, when I'm noticing that, like in the morning, I'm really bad about getting up and just getting on and looking at videos and looking at reels and TikTok and stuff like that. And so if you're finding yourself doing that and you know, like, okay, I could utilize this 20 or 30 minutes better, this is where you can start, and then you can fill in those to-dos. So I always suggest figuring out what are some of the important factors within your business. So if you know that right now, you know, your business is brand new and your number one priority is that you want to grow your business, well, then that should be the number one thing you're focusing on, whether that's going to be creating some trending content so that people can find you, whether that is creating some type of opt-in for people to get on your email list. Whatever that might look like as far as growth for your business, I would say that would be the number one focus, because how many people feel like sometimes you sit down, because that is me and that has been me. And so knowing what your number one priority is, it will always take you back to like, okay, well, I know I'm trying to focus on growing right now, so let me go ahead and focus on some of these different things. Or I know right now my main focus is just getting the subscription box completed. Let me go ahead and work on reaching out to a couple of these vendors to get some of these products. Let me go ahead and design this notebook that I've been thinking about in the back of my head. So just taking a moment to figure out what is the most important thing would be kind of like the part 2 to that intentional time. And then let me see what Kristen was saying. She said, my kids are out of school for the summer tomorrow, so my whole schedule's about to get rocked. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine, especially when you feel like you've had it together pretty much the whole year, and then you're like, all right, y'all, let's refigure this thing out again. And that's what it's funny. So the schedule that I came up with, I'll have to share it in a future YouTube video, but two of the ladies within a coaching program that I'm in, they both kind of specialize in like systems and getting organized and just like getting your household together. And so they sat down with me and they really helped me figure out what worked for me. And so it is so important to have a schedule, but I already am thinking about like, we're going out of town in July, and I'm like, okay, my schedule is going to be thrown off, and then how's it going to be when we get back? So I definitely get it. But the biggest thing I would say is just the fact that you have something in place, it's a starting point. So it definitely helps. Let me see. Chosen by Erica. Hi, watching while working. Hello. Just letting you know, I'm liking what you're saying and can definitely relate with the fly by the seat of your pants and binge watching YouTube. Yes. And so that's that's why this is my number one tip, because everything else falls in line with you setting intentional time for things and knowing what you're doing when you sit down to do it. So it's really not just about, okay, I put an hour on my calendar for work. Okay, well now what are you doing within that hour? So both of those things go hand in hand. And I see my grandmother popped on. Hey, Granny. Okay, so the next part, number 2, is to narrow your focus. So many clients that I have worked with, just ladies that I've met with on kickoff calls, have always said that they have a lot of ideas. They have a lot of different things that they want to launch. And while I get it, because I'm the same way, it can be very overwhelming to be trying to launch like 50 products at one time, okay? It can be a lot. So I'm just going to narrow this down into 3 questions to just kind of help you get a feel if you're feeling like there's 10 different things you're thinking about, you're not sure what you want to focus on the most. First of all, what is the one you are the most excited about? 9 times out of 10, there's probably something that you are the most excited about, you think about the most, you can kind of like visualize it happening for you. What is that for you? And then what do you need to learn, or do you need to outsource for that product? So if you're not going to be making it yourself, then what do you need to do to make it happen? And getting quotes and figuring all of that stuff out would be kind of what I would say. And then really the last part that I always say is, are you still going to be excited about it if it's not making you a ton of money right away? Because I think, we all want that overnight success and we want things to move quickly. But I think that it's just really important to realize that that might not happen overnight, and that is okay. So just really asking yourself those 3 things. And so, for example, what is something that I'm most excited about? When I first launched my business, I did A5 planner inserts. That was all I thought about. Even though I knew I wanted to do cards, I knew I wanted to do mugs, I wanted to have notebooks and journals and personal stationery. Like, I wanted to do everything. I wasn't really sure about stickers, but I kept going back and forth. I knew I might want to do stickers. And then you guys know, if you know my story, I had a subscription box for a while. But I started with one thing, and I think the beauty in that is you're learning how to get really good with that one product. You're learning how to market it properly to your customers. You're learning what people like and they don't like, and that's really easy to track and have something to really see how well it's progressing versus you trying to track 30 different products at one time. And it gives you something to get started with. You can do it within a time frame that's set, and you're not also thinking about like, oh, well, now I got to do these other 10 products over here before I can launch. So this is just a way for you to quickly get things going so that you're not feeling held back by it. And hello to everyone that's getting on. If you see me looking back and forth, I'm live on my YouTube channel as well as on Instagram. And we are just talking about some of the habits that I have learned over the last 6 years of running my stationery business that have just helped me to just stay organized and together for the most part. So that's what I would really say for that, as far as just kind of narrowing it down to what you want to focus on. And then that goes back to that focus time that we talked about from the first thing I was saying. You'll know what you're working on. You're not sitting down and you're like, okay, ooh, I kind of want to do a subscription box. Ooh, but I want to do a pouch. Oh, but I really like those tumblers. Oh, but I think I might want to do a notebook. You're not sitting down thinking about all those. You just have your one thing you're working on in this season, in this month. I promise you, it's not me saying you never can launch anything else, but just give yourself the grace and the room to succeed with that one thing before you start adding all of these other things into the mix. Okay, so part 3 is to connect with your progress and to celebrate your wins. Let me see. Oh, hey, Teresa. So glad you're enjoying it and glad you're loving your planner. So yeah, part 3 is really just to connect with your progress and celebrate wins. So I really want to see anybody put like a heart in the chat if you are the type of person that you'll do something that someone else might see as like amazing or great or whatever, but you don't even take 1 second to celebrate yourself, or you don't really acknowledge it, you just kind of move on. That is me all day, whether a launch goes well or, shoot, I just made it through the week being here with this 3-year-old, y'all. Like, it doesn't matter how big or small. I think we need to do a better job of celebrating ourselves and also having ways to measure our success. And so the first, I would say like year and a half to, I would say about the first year and a half of my business, I really struggled with setting goals. Even though I was really big in the planner community, loved planning and all of the things, I was really bad about setting goals because I didn't want to miss the mark. Because then I knew I would feel like I let myself down, or I would be disappointed in myself. And so I never really had anything to track. Like I never had like a goal of how many sales I wanted to do, or even just down to like how many of something I had, that I wanted to, maybe there was a cap on a particular item, or for my subscription box when I used to do caps on those. I was very kind of really iffy when it came to wanting to put a number to something because I didn't want to fail. And so the biggest thing I would say, and why I included this, is because when you're running a business and if you want to be able to look back and see how you've progressed and how much better you're getting, you want to be tracking those things. You want to track your insights, even though numbers is not everything, but to know like, okay, what posts are performing well on my social media? What videos on my YouTube channel are doing better than others? What do people like? What do people not like? What product is selling the most in my shop? How many people purchased this when I launched on this particular day? I love launching on Fridays. So like if I launched a new collection on Friday, how many people purchased on Friday? How many of those people from my email list clicked on the link? These are all things that they do take some pieces and parts to set up and integrate, but it's important to track these things so that you have a way to see what's going well, what's not going well, and what to celebrate. And then even if you don't hit the number, the fact that you hit anything is worth celebrating, because I know there was a time before when I wasn't getting any sales. So, that's always going to be a win within itself. Let me see. Oh, I see some hearts. So I see some people can relate with me on that one. Yes, celebrating small wins is crucial. You are so right, Teresa. And let me see. Kristen said, guilty about this way more than I want to admit. Yes. And I'm the same way, even with whether it's with business coaching for me or my stationery business. I think it's important for me to acknowledge the work that I'm putting in, even if it falls short, which happens, even if it's not exactly how I thought it would end up. It's still me pouring into something I'm passionate about. And, it sounds corny, but even if your product is helping one person, that is still something worth celebrating. And I try to get back to how I was when I first started my business, because y'all, when I got my first order on Etsy, you could not tell me nothing, okay? I was like, literally, I'm not even exaggerating. I was jumping over his name. It was Jessica. And it really felt so good to have someone purchase my product for the first time. And so now, years later, when I'm like, I have a product that's coming out and then I'm getting upset because I'm not hitting the number, it's like, let's get back to the reality of people are still purchasing. They're interested. I have sales. And so just celebrating those things is important. And just a couple of ways you can do this that I wanted to just include is one cool thing I've seen is people will do like a win wall. So if you have a spot within like your office or your workspace where you are within a journal, you can take like little sticky notes, and every time something amazing happens that you want to remember, you can place it on that spot. So, if you have 5 sales for the week, or if you sell out of something, or maybe you get an email from someone wanting to collab, like those are all wins. If you get a really special note from a customer saying like, hey, I just wanted to let you know I'm really loving what you're doing. Whatever the case may be, those are all wins, and those are the things that you can look back on when you're feeling at a low point, or when you're feeling like, man, like, why am I doing this? Things like that will keep you encouraged and motivated. So just finding a way to track those things is really important. Okay, so we got 2 more points in here. The next one is to check in with your money. And this is one that I haven't really talked about that much on here because I'm going to keep it 100% real with y'all. I am not a money person. Like, I never have been. It's something that I'm working on, but I get asked all the time about this. Like, oh, well, how do you track your business expenses and, different things like that. And so I think it is an extremely important habit to have in your business. But even before I say this, I will just give the tip that if you are still kind of wondering, like, should I have a business account? Should I not? I would 100% say yes. If you are planning on having any type of business that's going to be making some income for you, whether it's on the side, if it's full-time, you do want to have its own bank account, because it can just get really confusing when you're mixing personal and business. Believe me, I did it for the first year of my business, and it was not fun trying to pick out all of the different stuff at the end of the year. And on top of that, what I will say is also regularly tracking your business income, your sales, your expenses, at least monthly at the least. But if you do it at least once a week or every other week, I think it's helpful, because then you're not going to be at tax time sitting there like, oh my gosh, I got to get all this stuff organized. You'll have already been kind of in the habit of doing it. And this is something I would recommend putting on the calendar. I would set down a time where it's like a day where you just focus on, not even a whole day, but maybe you dedicate an hour to just making sure everything's in line, getting all of your expenses tracked. I use QuickBooks, so that actually connects to my business bank account and it does it automatically. And more recently, in the last 2 years, I've been working with an accountant, and she really helps me with the regular bookkeeping and getting ready for tax time, because like I mentioned to y'all, I'm not a money person, and it's one of those things that just goes over my head. So I was like, that was the one thing I knew. I was like, okay, when I'm finally making enough money, I'm hiring somebody to help me with these taxes and this bookkeeping stuff. But before I had that, I used this thing called PaperSpark. And PaperSpark is really good. She has a ton of different spreadsheet templates. So if you're on Etsy, if you're on Shopify, whatever platform you might be using, she has different templates for you that you can just plug in all of your expenses, and it's great. So that's what I would suggest for that. I do have a code as well for PaperSpark where you can actually, I believe you can get a discount off. So if you are interested in that, I can make sure to share that with you all. But yeah, so regardless of how you do it, it needs to be done. And I know it's one of those things that it's not the fanciest looking thing. It's not the most amazing thing. I'm not going to lie. Like, at least for me, maybe if you're like a person that's into numbers, then you'll feel differently. But it's definitely, out of all of the things I have to do in my business, it's probably one of my least favorite things to do. And so with that, I think you're always going to have that thing you don't enjoy. And so I always suggest, whenever you do get to a point where if you can get some help or outsource, whatever is that first thing that you dread, whatever you just really don't enjoy about your business, that would be the first thing I would be trying to get somebody to help me with, just as a suggestion to keep your business being enjoyable for you. So hopefully that kind of helps a little bit with that. And then another suggestion I had under here that I wrote down is just to track your bills as well. So if you have different like charges, let's say, if Shopify is charging you once a month to be on there, maybe you have a Shopify app that's charging you, I don't know, maybe you pay for a email platform, just a way so that you can see what's going to be coming out every single month on the date, so you can easily see and just make sure you know where your money is going. So that's another thing you can do as well to help yourself. Let me see. Agreed. Dread bookkeeping and pricing. Yes. I try to reconcile at the end of every month. Yeah, definitely. I think the end of every month is, like I said, that's about the least time I would go, or the most time I would go without tracking anything, because y'all, just take it from me, from somebody who had to sit down and go through a year's worth of taxes right before tax time. Like, I promise, just save yourself the headache and just dedicate that 30 minutes to an hour, or however long it takes you every month to do that. And so then the last point is posting content and showing up regularly. And this is a habit because this kind of goes back to the why you're doing this and just getting your business in front of people. And so in order to do that, you have to show up, and everybody's is going to look different. Your platform of choice is going to look different. But really figuring out, okay, what is your number one platform where you like to show up, that your people are. If you're brand new, you might be kind of testing the waters a little bit to figure this out. But just where do you like to hang out most? And just start coming up with a way to show up regularly. Even if you can only show up 2 to 3 times a week, it's better than nothing. I think sometimes people feel like, well, if I can't post every day, then I just can't post at all. And I just don't think that that's right. So, figuring out how often you can post is really important. And then deciding, okay, not only have I set aside that intentional time that we talked about, the intentional time from our first point, but now I know, okay, I'm going to sit down, and this is what I like to do, because it's funny how we'll create the content. We'll decide like, okay, this is my content calendar. This is what I'm working on this day. But then we never actually do it. Has anybody ever done that before, where like you have planned it out? You feel productive because you feel like you've done all of the planning, but then the days are coming up and you haven't actually created the content. So there needs to be 2 separate days implemented. There needs to be a day where you are planning the content, figuring out like, okay, this is happening on these different days. But then there also needs to be a day where you are creating it, meaning you are filming, you're batch recording, you're photographing products, you're writing out maybe some copy or something like that. I think that's really important. So just acknowledging that there's really 2 parts to the content creation, and then you can schedule it on the calendar. So my personal favorite platform, it used to be Trello for a really long time, but the last like year and a half, 2 years, ClickUp has won my heart. So I do all of my business planning in general on ClickUp, but I also have like a social media calendar that I use on there, and I love it because you can tag the different platforms, because I do some stuff here on Instagram, I do some stuff on YouTube, of course. So it's just really organized, it's color coded, and I really like it. And it has a date on the calendar, so it's just really helpful. And then you can even take it a step further, and you can of course use a social media scheduler or something like that. I don't use those as much as I used to, because I find that a lot of times the schedulers are nice, and you'll have to tell me, it's been a while, I don't even know, can you schedule reels and stuff on a scheduler? I'm not sure. But sometimes scheduling too far out can kind of feel out of touch to me. So I might do it sometimes, but usually I'll just post it the day of, and that way I can be on, I can kind of interact with people for a little bit before I get off. So that's what I would definitely say about that. And then the other part is your email list as well. So if you don't have an email list already, or if you're not thinking about an email list, I would suggest building one up. That's something, again, that we talk about in depth within the Inspire Blueprint program. But the main thing I would say is just creating a way for people to get on your email list. This could be part of your content creation plan, which is why I'm mentioning it. Figuring out an opt-in for people to get on your list. Even if you're a product-based business, there are so many struggles and just different pain points that your customers are dealing with. So there's a lot of ways you can touch base with them. I've done a lot of freebies for the Stationary Muse in the past on like goal setting, overcoming fear, just different things that I know that I've grown my email list way quicker with that than I have with like, hey, get 10% off. So just kind of thinking about ways you can grow your email list, and then regularly including that within your content plan so that you're refreshing your freebie or your email opt-in every so often, and that you also are sending out some type of regular communications to your audience. I don't mean like every single week or multiple times a week, but even if it's just like once a month, just to check in with them, because they're giving you their email address, and so just checking in and doing that sometimes can help. And it may not always be the case. Email list has always been one of my tougher things to stay consistent with, but it is golden, it's important, and if social media was to shut down, that would be the first thing you would turn to, so nurturing those people is important. So that is pretty much what I have as far as those 5 points. The last thing I'll just kind of reiterate again is just, above all else, just show up, make time for your business. If this is something you want to be successful and to grow and to make an impact, then all the more reason to show up. And showing up doesn't just necessarily mean like getting on live like this, but showing up those days when you might not feel like it. Maybe you do want to sit and scroll on TikTok for 30 minutes, or you want to watch and binge this Netflix show. If you can do both, okay, great. But I think showing up just means even when people aren't looking, that work that you do behind the scenes is even more important than sometimes what people will see on the front end. So really just keeping that in mind and not being upset, when you aren't seeing the growth or things move as quickly as you'd like, because you're only kind of half putting the work in. So, and when I'm saying that to y'all, I'm saying it to myself too, because I'll be the first person to complain and be like, oh my gosh, well, nobody really watched this video, blah, blah, blah. Well, then it's like, okay, girl, you posted the video. Did you share it anywhere else? Did you talk about it on anything? Or did you literally just post it and then expected that people are supposed to watch it? So just being honest with yourself, having those tough love moments, and then, not living in it, but then being like, okay, I'm going to do better next time. And it's just that simple. So that is pretty much the 5 points. I appreciate all of you that have been popping in and out. So glad you're enjoying this topic. This was a really fun one to talk about. But I wanted to mention, if you are looking for full support around making these habits happen, launching your business, and so much more I have. And it's really for if you are fearful of, creating your own product, if you are really just not sure how to launch your business, or if you're scared of not having customers once you launch your business, or if you're even just feeling stuck around the idea of starting and you haven't moved past that. I have clients that I work with, and they just really desire to have something more than their job. They want to have something that they love and that they enjoy. And so that is what I'm all about. I'm about helping people not only to create more freedom in their lives. I think that that's amazing as well, because having side businesses and different things does create financial freedom. But I just feel like it's nothing like having something that is yours, something that you're passionate about, something you love, something where you're making an impact. And so that is truly what I love about it. And just to also help you to feel like you are unique, because I know so many people are already out here doing this. And sometimes it can feel discouraging to be like, well, what's going to be any different if one more journal puts out there, or one more subscription box is out there? But that's a lot of what I talk about within my program, and what I'm pouring into the ladies that I work with is that none of that matters, because no one is going to do it like you. And so, if you are wanting to get clear on the process for creating your product, if you want to get a proven strategy for launching your business and really feel confident and proud of it, then definitely reach out to me if you're interested in the Inspire Blueprint. We're actually going to be kicking off next month. It's towards the end of the month. I think our first meeting will be June 23rd. The specifics are on my website, so I won't get into all of that today, but I want to just let you know that that is open and available. And currently there are 4 spots open for it. So that is all I got. Does anyone have any questions? I usually love to do a little Q&A for the last 5 or 10 minutes before I get off. Let me see. Oh, some people are saying some things. This was an amazing teaching. Appreciate your wisdom. You're so welcome. Short and sweet, but to the point. Thank you for sharing your insight and experience. You're very welcome. So glad you guys enjoyed it. Of course, yes, I will always be very open and share what I know to help. They might be, but they're not you. Yes, exactly. That'll be our theme to end this. Basically, that there might be a ton of people out there doing it, but just remember that they're still not you. And I know every time I say that on my YouTube channel, I feel like I say it in almost every video, because I feel like I like to remind people of that, because when I first started my business, it felt lonely. Even sometimes it does, not as much now because I do have my community, but it just feels lonely when you're starting. And so when people can't really relate to you. And so that's why if you ever feel like, oh my God, Tatiana says like the same things over and over again, or, oh, she's so fluffy. Some people like to say, oh, it's fluffy content, or, oh, whatever. It's like, no, sometimes people just need to hear those things, because we don't have people in our lives that can understand or say the things we need to hear. So that's really, really why I say those things so much. I find myself getting stuck between making products or getting them made. Any tips? Yes. So I actually have a video on my YouTube channel about this. It's just Tatiana Muse on YouTube. And the biggest thing I would say for this is check that video out. It's basically, I think it's called something like Is Handmade for You. I'm kind of talking about, I believe, journals and planners, but this can apply to everything. The biggest thing I would really just say is, do you have a desire to make it by hand? Is there a specific reason why you're wanting to make it by hand? Sometimes people will just naturally think that doing it by hand is inexpensive, but that's not always the case. So it really will just depend on what type of product it is. And really the why behind it. And I say the why behind it because handmade is labor intensive. So it's just, if you're really feeling like that's something you want to do, just consider some of the drawbacks to the handmade. Even if it is cheaper to do, now you're giving your time. and now you may not be able to have as much volume because of that. So just things to consider. But then on the flip side, you know, depending on what type of company you might work with to make it, maybe you might not get exactly the look you want, or you might have to order like a whole bunch of them, but you only wanted a handful. So I think just kind of narrowing down some of those things. I would definitely watch that video because I go really in depth on that topic. But it's kind of hard to answer without really knowing a ton of details. So I hope that helps a little bit. Let's see. Anita said, you gave a lot of nuggets to nibble on for sure. I like that. You're welcome. Let's see if there's any other questions. Oh, yes. Who did you use to develop your website? Good question. So I have always done my own websites since I've been in business. So me. I do have a small opening for like a very, very small, because I used to actually do web design and graphic design. I am working with clients again this year. So if you are possibly wanting to, I do Shopify sites only now, though I'm not doing any other ones at this time. But if you're looking for a Shopify website design, reach out to me. So that's something that I offer as well. Let's see. Oh yeah, I always forget that. Y'all, thank you for reminding me. Yeah, hit the like button on YouTube. I don't think you can really do much on Instagram, to be honest. Okay, so I think that is it. I'll wait around 1 more minute for any other questions if they come up. Deb C, glad you caught the end of the end of this. The replay will be up shortly after it's done processing and everything. But that is all that I have for you. I hope you enjoyed this. The 5 habits to helping you just run your business successfully, get organized, get out of your own way. Some of them are, you know, a little bit more fun than others, but we got to do them, right? And so I will see you all next Tuesday. Reach out if you have any questions, and have a good rest of the week. Bye.